Welcome, everybody. I am super excited because we're about to get into the depths of another great conversation. Your Facebook page, or share it out on YouTube, or however you share it out, please do. So with that, without any further ado, I've talked enough. I'd love to introduce our illustrious guest today. We have Michelle Edwards-Colley, who is a member of the South Broward Alumnae chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. She is also a financial coach and an author and a bunch of other great things. So maybe I've stolen your thunder, Michelle, but I'm going to let you introduce yourself a little bit further.
Thank you so much, Taji. My name is Michelle Edwards-Colley, and I have over 25 years of experience. And I'm here tonight to just share information with you about your credit. How do you repair it? How do you fix it? How do you do all the things, apply CPR so that your credit scores can start going up? Because as we know, you have to increase your credit in today's age to get a job, to get an apartment, to buy a house, to buy a car. Everybody's looking at credit. So let's make sure that we can get your credit scores up. I'm excited about tonight.
Fantastic. And we're super excited about tonight. So I was remiss in not mentioning another important entity in this conversation. The person that's doing all the bells and whistles, the music, the show card you saw in the beginning, and the lower thirds when we introduce ourselves, etc., is Curtis Brooks from Curtis Brooks Media Productions. He is absolutely awesome. And we'll be able to give you some contact information for him after if you are interested. So without any further ado, Michelle, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Well, okay, let's get to it. So this is the way it's going to work, guys. Again, it's a conversation. Please feel free to ask questions. We have around 13 or so talking points. We may not be able to get to all of them, but we invite you to continue the conversation after the fact on our social media. So we have these conversation points, which is where the conversation is going to start. So tell me a little bit, Michelle, about why you're so passionate about educating people about financial freedom, financial readiness, and repairing credit.
Well, I think this all started for me years ago because I started doing mortgages. And I found that people just didn't know, how do they buy a house? They thought that it's impossible. They thought they needed a lot of money to be able to buy a house, or that they needed, excellent credit scores. You do need good credit, but you don't need to have an 800 credit score to buy a house. And people think that, oh, I messed up my credit. I don't know how to fix it. Or, I have to wait 7 years for something to fall off my credit before I can even do anything. So as I started talking in the community, I realized, I needed to do maybe workshops at different churches, women's conferences, different events so that I could share the information. I know that it's part of my calling. And, when God says go and do something, you got to do it. So that's how I started sharing information.
Wow, great. So you heeded the call. And we're so glad that you did.
Yes, I did.
We're so glad that you did. So let's get into the meat of the conversation. Now, as far as I know, there are 3 credit bureaus, correct?
That's correct. There's Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. And what you have to understand is each of those credit scores represent you. A bank or a lender will look at all 3 credit bureaus, and they usually take the middle of those credit scores. So a lot of times I'll have a client tell me, oh, I know that my score is 710, but is that your top score and your other 2 scores are lower? And people often ask me, why are there 3 different credit bureaus? And then why are the scores sometimes so different?
Right.
So let's take an example. An American Express may actually report to all 3 credit bureaus. Okay. But let's say let's use Rooms to Go. And I'm just using an example, not necessarily the truth, but Rooms to Go may only report to Experian and TransUnion. And let's say you're not paying your Rooms to Go account. Okay. Now your Experian and TransUnion could be much lower than your Equifax, because your Equifax score doesn't reflect a Rooms to Go that you're not paying on time. So that's why you'll have a variant, and sometimes the variance can be 50, 60 points between the 3 different bureaus. So it's important for you to check all 3 of your bureaus and know exactly what's on each different credit bureau, because not all companies report rate.
So maybe this is just common sense, or maybe I just have no sense, but let me ask this question anyway.
No, it's not.
So what is the purpose of having 3 different credit bureaus with varying scores? Why is that allowed?
That's the way that the government has always had it set up. So the three bureaus, and they each have their own scoring models. So one may take a certain type of account into account higher, and that would make your score higher with that bureau. And there's ways that we can look at credit simulators and say, okay, if you pay off this account, it's going to make your score go up. If you do this pay these things on time, it's going to make your score go up. So that's why it's important. People think I'm just going to fix my credit on my own. But it is important for you to talk to someone who's certified and has experience with helping to repair your credit. Not necessarily credit repair companies, because that's a whole nother conversation that we can get into in a little bit. But it is important for you to speak to someone who's very familiar with how to repair your credit. But it is allowed for all three bureaus. We have had discussion about just eliminating and only having one. But remember that our economy is built on income. So your Rooms to Go or Capital One, any of the lenders that are reporting to your credit bureau, they pay the credit bureaus to report information.
Okay.
So a lot of people don't even realize that they actually pay to report, but they know that if they're reporting on you and you're not paying on time, then that's when a person would, they're more entitled to pay something that is going to show up on their credit. You're more encouraged to pay something that's going to show up on your credit. If it's not going to show up on your credit and I've got only $100 to pay two bills and one of them is not going to show up, I'm just going to pay the bill that might show up. You see what I mean? So it's to that lender or that creditor's advantage to put it on your credit report, but they do pay to report the information on your credit.
I see. Well, you must have had a lot of Rooms to Go customers because you mentioned Rooms to Go. So
no, I was just using an example, but Rooms to Go, City Furniture.
Right.
But a lot of times, the reason I say Rooms to Go is because what I find happens with the furniture is that you get those buy the furniture now payments till 2019. Or, well, we're in 2018. So let's say, the furniture now, no payments until 2021. You've got 2 years interest. What happens is we get the furniture delivered. We forget all about the bill. They're not really sending you monthly statements because you don't have a payment due. You know in the back of your mind that this needs to be paid. But you have to read the fine print because it says interest accrues. Right. And if you don't pay it within that time period they've given you, all the interest goes on. And that's being reported on your credit bureau. Now you're stuck with this high payment that includes all this interest when you didn't really have that intention when you purchased the furniture. So that's how come I mentioned Rooms to Go and as a lender. Not that it's a bad thing, but we need to look at our choices when we're using credit. If it's something that you can save up and purchase cash, maybe you should purchase it cash instead of using a credit card.
Good deal. And meanwhile, your cat has turned your couch into shredded wheat and you still owe money on it. So yeah.
Yes. And I see that all the time. And then what ends up happening is now you have to go get new furniture. So you stop paying that one. And now that's a collection debt, which is another question I'm sure you're going to ask me.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about checking your credit score. Often before you incur a big purchase, you'll check your credit score. But does that hurt your credit score?
So you're actually allowed to check your credit once a year. So what I usually advise clients is that they should check their credit and make it a habit to do it around your birthday. Usually around my birthday, I'm saying, okay, I've looked at my credit last year in September. I do have apps on my phone like Credit Karma and certain things that'll give me notification if something comes up on there that's incorrect. But you can actually pull all three bureaus on annual credit report. That is the only true free credit report website. So not freecreditreport.com, but annualcreditreport.com, or you can call 877-322-8228. And when you can do that once a year. So every 12 months, you can pull all three. What will they need from you? They'll need your name, social security number, address, and your date of birth. They will have identifying features that, like, let's say, did you ever live on 100th Street? And so you need to say yes or no. They might give you a street you've never lived on. So you're going to say, no, I never lived there. It's to make sure that it's really you getting the information. So it's important for you to pull your credit, but know which side, especially when we're on Facebook or any of the other websites, you'll see off to the side, check your credit on this, but then you go on and it's like $29.95. No, you can get it for free on annualcreditreport.com. It does not hurt your score to pull annualcreditreport.com. There are also several nonprofit organizations. If you're here in South Florida, if you're anywhere in the country, there are nonprofit organizations such as the Urban League and other entities that will, United Way organizations that will pull your credit for you, and they'll do what's called a soft pull. A soft pull does not hurt your credit also. So that's another way for you to do it if you want to try to get assistance. But if you pull it and it's considered a hard pull, then that will hurt your credit score, and can hurt it, I should say.
Okay, so I'm seeing in the room, thank you so much. I'm seeing in the room, Adrian mentioned that you appear to be frozen a little bit. I know that it may be a connection thing on your end. So if you're noticing anything, Curtis, just see what you can do about it. But as long as you all can hear her, hopefully you can hear her, it should be all good. So
do I need to do anything on my end?
I think you're okay. It may just be your connection. That is, I'm seeing you're moving a little bit now. So sometimes during this time of day, if you're using your Wi-Fi or you're using your phone, there's a little bit of a connection. So don't worry too much about it. But we're just.
Yeah, I do see that I'm frozen.
Okay. Yeah, you should be okay now because it seems to be moving. So just letting you all know that we do see that she is a little bit frozen. That's also a connection thing. Modern technology, it can and will fail you, but as long as you can hear her, that is all good. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next question. What is a collection company? I know we've heard the term collection agency and collection companies. What exactly are they?
So collection companies, you owe a debt. Maybe you got a credit card, $300 limit, use the card, and then somehow something happened, you lost your job or money got tight and you stopped paying the card. The credit card company that you owed originally will sell your information and sell your debt to a collection company. A collection company now starts calling you. So now on your credit report, you'll have the original debt and it'll say sold to another lender, or it'll have a note on there that, will say what happened with the debt. And then now the collection company now owes it. And that's when you're getting the 1-800 number calls and the constant phone calls. And they'll say, hi, I'm from so-and-so, I'm bill collector, and you need to pay me. We're going to come knock on your door and take you to court. And they can't do all of those. I'm not saying they can't, but collection companies also have certain rules that they must follow. The times that they can call you, the things that they can say to you. So it's important for you to, sometimes just take that phone call and see what they're saying, or that, we should also always get something in writing. So if your debt is sent to a collection company, that collection company also legally must send you something in writing that you can, that says in there that you can affirm the debt or that it's not your debt. So Michelle, it's important that we open our mail. Am I frozen?
No, I'm going to ask you to repeat it because you were a little bit, you were sounding a little bit warbly, which means that you have a connection issue. So I'm going to ask you to go back a little bit and repeat what you said right before what you were talking about, please.
Okay. I was saying that, did you hear the part about a collection company, or that's what you're saying I need to repeat?
Yeah, please repeat that.
Okay, awesome. So a collection company, you will owe an original creditor, let's say a credit card company, that you had a $300 limit, you used the card, something happened with you financially, you could no longer pay the debt. You've gone a couple of months without making a payment to the credit card, and they've tried to collect from you. They've called you and you haven't been able to make any payments or any type of payment arrangements with them. So they will sell your debt to a collection company. And these collection companies, their sole responsibility and purpose is to keep calling you for you to pay that debt. So that credit card company may sell it to them for pennies on the dollar, but they're still trying to collect from you the original amount of the $300 plus all fees and any interest that's accrued and everything else. So your $300 debt could turn into $500-$600.
Wow.
And then you're now paying that amount. But what the other thing that I mentioned is that there's certain legalities involving collection companies. There's a certain time they cannot call you before 8 a.m. They cannot call you after 9 p.m. So if you're getting phone calls out of that time, if you tell them do not call me at work, they cannot call you at work. So a lot of times people are threatened by collection companies and feel like I don't have any way out. they take money from their rent to pay a bill collector that's now harassing them. They're not allowed to do that to you. Yes, you may owe a debt, but you have the right to pay that debt at your, where it's not causing you a hardship. And they also have a right to send you in writing of a letter that talks about how much you owe, where your original creditor was, all of that. And you at that point can say, this is not my debt. You have a certain amount of time limit, and it's in the bottom of the letter. It's important for us to open our mail. I find a lot of clients will come to me and they don't have a clue. And I'll say, did you get a letter? Oh, I think I got something. I said, go home and check. Then they'll finally open that letter. We need to open it and see exactly what it says, address the issue. What happens a lot of times with people with credit issues, myself included, I've been there, done that. I can raise my hand. And that's why I know, the thing is that you have to try to at least address the issue or know what's going on. You cannot fix something that you don't have a clue about what's on there. You can't fix it.
You can't fix what you don't know. Very important indeed. So let me take a question from Facebook. I know that Teresa Sands had a question, but let's go, because we're going to answer that question later on down the line. I'm going to go to Tramika Wade on Facebook. She asks,
that depends on what type of debt it is. There are reputable credit counseling type companies. There are also a lot of nonprofits that will help you. If you're going to go into debt just to pay someone to help you fix your credit, that may not be the right thing to do. You've got to look at your budget and see how much you can afford, as well as get recommendations from others that may have used these companies. I've seen clients paying $100 a month for the last year and a half, and their credit score is the same because the person never did anything. So it's important for you to question what the person's going to do, have them give you an example of, this is what I've done before, and use an actual, a highly recommended company. You can do it yourself, but you're going to have to be disciplined. I fixed my own credit myself with my own dispute letter. I got a book from Barnes and Noble, and that's how I did it. And at this time, I was working for a nonprofit, and that's what we did. We helped everyone, and that's how I became certified. But I couldn't help others until I helped myself. When the recession hit and I owned my own mortgage company, everything went bad. So I had to figure out how to fix it. And the only way you can fix it, again, is to address it. But I think that depends on you, Tramika. Do you want to write your own letters? There are form letters. Tachi, I'm not sure if we can actually post, but I do have templates. I'm not sure how we would post it on here, but maybe I can give my email address at the end or some type of
absolutely. We'll give your contact information at the end.
Okay. Or maybe we can post it on the South Broward page. There are templates that you can use to help to fix your credit. And if you pull your credit through Annual Credit Report, as I mentioned before, that Annual Credit Report site, you can actually dispute items directly with Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion directly from annualcreditreport.com. So you may not have to even write a letter. The key is to pull that report, see what's on there, and then figure out from there how to dispute it. I hope that helps, Tramika. Let us know if you have any other questions.
Thank you, Tramika, for that great question. We also have a question from the YouTube side. Sundry95 asks on YouTube, can you pay the company, even if that, now it's been sent to collections, can you pay the company directly, even if the collection company is contacting you?
And that's a great question, because yes, you can, depending on the company. So there are some companies that once they've sold it, they'll tell you, no, we can no longer take a payment. We no longer own that account. You must deal directly with the collection company. And at that time, I would make sure that any arrangements I make with the collection company, I get in writing. I'm not a big proponent on giving the collection company access to your bank account, because then they can go in at any time and maybe deduct money that you don't want them to deduct. But I am a believer on getting everything that you discuss with them in writing before you make any payments. So it all depends on the original creditor. Some of them you can still go back and make a payment with them, and some of them you have to go through the collection company.
Great question. Thank you, Sundry95 on YouTube. So we're going to go on with our talking points, and I'll go back to the room, the chat, in just a second. So again, please feel free to put your questions in the chat. And let me introduce myself and our guest once again. My name is Dr. Tatachi Egwu. I am a member of the South Broward Alumnae chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and I am your host for this evening for this wonderful conversation on repairing your credit, which is brought to you by the South Broward Alumnae chapter and put together by Economic Development. So thank you to the members of Economic Development and Jerosa Davis. Thank you so much. And our guest tonight is author and financial coach, Michelle Edwards Colley. So
good evening.
Yes.
Hi, good evening. Welcome. We're here to help you fix your credit. The time is now. Thank you for joining us. You've taken the first step, and that's an important step to getting your credit repaired. Wow, sometimes I call it putting CPR on your credit.
Wow, that's great. That's great. And it almost feels like a 12-step program type of thing.
It is.
The first step is admitting it, and then there are all these
yes.
steps.
Yes.
Fantastic. All right. So we're going to go to a question now, which is extremely important. All of us that are members of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, we pride ourselves on the fact that we are college-educated women, but sometimes that college education has put us in serious arrears as such.
Yes.
How do student loans affect your credit score?
That's an excellent question. And yes, I see so many people, the community, with student loans. So how it affects it can be several different ways. Number one, you know what happens. You're in school, the loans are in forbearance or in deferment until you come out of school. 6 months after you're out of school, you start getting letters that the payments are due. Of course, now at this point, you're like, oh my gosh, this is a lot more than I thought it was going to be. I still haven't found a job yet. And I'm talking to that young person out there that's just getting out of school, still searching for a job, or maybe getting a lower paid job than what they wanted to. You need to talk with the student loan company because if they start billing you, meaning that a payment starts coming due and that payment goes 30 days, 60 days, 90 days late on your credit, your score will drop. And instantly it will drop. So it's important for you to have a conversation with the student loan company. There are a lot of different options that are available, but just not calling them back or even addressing it, again, that's where you'll have, very hurtful on your credit. The other thing is sometimes we're out of school, we're making payments, but then we go back to school. You can put it back in deferment again once you're in school again. But you have to make sure you're keeping up with, do I have a payment due? Because student loans will always collect from you. A student loan cannot be put in a bankruptcy. People don't know this, but a student loan cannot be put in a bankruptcy. But I can tell you what student loans will do to collect. They will and can automatically freeze all your bank accounts. They can garnish your wages, depending on the type of student loans, not necessarily private student loans, but the student loans that are public student loans. So it's important for you to talk with the student loan provider, your student loan servicer, and see what options are available to you. I understand you may not be able to make the payment, but there's income-based repayment plans that they look at how much you're making, and based on your actual income, there's a percentage of that. It may be a $25 payment instead of the $400 payment you thought you were going to pay. But it's important for you to talk with that student loan servicer, because once you start showing 30, 60, 90 days late or worse, that the student loans are, they go into collection. You can even, I had a client the other day that I said, you might want to look at refinancing your student loans into one, consolidating all of them together to get a lower payment. Okay. When she did that, she ended up saving $175 a month.
Wow.
So that's where you need to have a conversation. You need to look at what your options are. And the providers under the the CFPB, which is a Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, all of the lenders are willing to work with you. Believe me, no lender wants to take a loss, whether it be a student loan company or Rooms to Go. I keep using them as an example, right? But a student loan company or one of the credit card companies, American Express, they want you to pay. So if you just work with them and start making arrangements with them, that's what they want. But you have to know what your budget is too. So again, and part of that the steps is admitting where you are, but it's also taking a look at your true financial. How much do you have in the bank? How much are you bringing in? Because the only way you can pay off those debts is to know exactly what's in your budget.
Exactly, exactly. And if
I
I
hope
may
that
add
helps.
really quickly, yeah, I'm sure that helps. Thank you so much for that great question. If I may put in there, as a professor and a person who works in higher ed, I'm now advising students, okay, before you
Hmm.
go on for that next degree, let's think about, do you actually need that degree to do what it is
Yes.
you need to do? Because
Yes.
schools are a business and they're trying to sell degrees, whether you believe it or not. So before you incur more debt, think about whether you need that. So I'm just adding that in there as a professor.
Well, I'll say another thing too. That's very important, and I do counsel my clients on that. But another thing is that a lot of times I've seen students take out more than what they need. So,
Yes.
only take out what you need. I've seen people living on their student loans. Yes, you might need it to pay some bills and some, as you're going through school. But if you're just taking it and it's not being used towards schooling, it's used towards other material items that down the line, you're paying a lot of interest for that. So if you only need a $5,000 loan, don't take 10 and use the other five to go on a cruise. Okay. So that's just,
Right.
my two
Buy
cents.
some
I'm
Red
sorry. I
Bull.
sound like a mom, right?
No, but it's important, and we need to know. And these are things that we tend to, especially let's be frank, especially in the Black community, in
Yes.
communities of color, we tend not to have those hard conversations about finances and money. And as a
Oh,
result,
yes.
you end up in serious debt because no one ever really sat you down and talked to you frankly about it. So
Correct.
it's really important to say these things.
Yes, it is. And I completely agree. And I do feel that in our community, it's not discussed, just like so many other issues are not discussed. I'm glad that's why we're having this tonight, so that we can share with others the information that will hopefully get all of us with 700 credit scores.
Absolutely. Sharing is caring. And so, in lieu of that, I'm going to also ask you to, if you have not already, please share out this conversation on Facebook, share it on YouTube, share it out on Twitter. Share it out on Instagram, however you want to do it. Share the link on Instagram. It is critically important. And we want as many people here. And we are so happy for the numbers that we have here tonight, but let's get more people in here. So, once again, thank you. And let me take this time to break for a moment and talk to you all that are members of South Broward Alumni Chapter. Remember, I said there was something coming? Aha, here it comes. So if you're a member of South Broward Alumni Chapter, this counts as an event for you. And all you have to do is email the word FICO, FICO, FICO to economic development. And I'll get you that. We will give you the email shortly. Excuse me. We'll get that to you shortly. But the keyword is FICO, FICO, like FICO score. And that is what you're going to use to prove that you were here tonight. And we can also see you, but that's a double added protection. So let's go on. All right. So there's some other questions in the room, but let me get to some more things here, some more of our talking points. So in terms of we talked about student loans. How briefly, if you can tell us how bankruptcy, foreclosure, and short sales affect your score? This is a different type of debt.
That's correct. And we find that a bankruptcy and short sale and foreclosure will cause your credit score to drop much worse than just a late on a credit card. A late on a credit card is one thing, but to actually say, and it depends on the type of bankruptcy. So we're not going to get into how to file bankruptcy or the various types of bankruptcy. But if you get to a point where you cannot afford all your debts, you cannot afford your credit cards, and bankruptcy is your only option, then yes, it will hurt your credit. But know that once that bankruptcy is dissolved and it's been ruled that it's that the bankruptcy has been all your debts have been included in the bankruptcy, what will happen is that now you will have the access to get credit again. Now you got to make sure you learn from that lesson. So I tell people all the time, you can buy a house after bankruptcy. There are a lot of programs that even 1 year after bankruptcy, 2 years after bankruptcy, you can buy a home. You must rebuild your credit, but keep that new rebuilt credit better. Don't go late. If we see lates after bankruptcy, a lender is going to say, wait a minute, you didn't learn. You're going to do the same thing to us again. We're going to have another issue. It's going to be hard for us to collect. Foreclosure. Work with your mortgage company. The mortgage company does not want your house. We want to try to work with you. So as a mortgage lender, I'll tell you, you call your mortgage company, try to do a type of modification, try to do something. If you've lost your job, explain to them. We can put payments at the end of the loan, even with a car loan, it's the same thing. But communicating is with your lender is the key. So a foreclosure will cause your scores to drop, as well as a short sale. But a short sale means that you have decided, I can't afford this. I owe more than what it's worth. And now I'm getting a realtor or someone to go ahead and sell my home so that I'm able to get from under this debt because I just can't afford it anymore. I've lost my job or something's come up. Do you know that 8% of the people that file bankruptcy, it's due to a medical issue. So we're living paycheck to paycheck. So when we get any type of, physical, we get sick and we can no longer work. And now there's, maybe there's a couple and one person's no longer working, but all your debts were based on two people. Now it's come to a point where, all those medical bills and everything's adding up. You've got to file bankruptcy. So that's why it's also important to give yourself an emergency savings just in case. We've got to stop the paycheck cycle that happens in our community.
So how do you, let me just go off of that. How do you, since you say have an emergency, how do you suggest people start that? Because for some people, if you're already living paycheck to paycheck and now you've got the Susie Ormans of the world saying, I need you to save 17 worth of padding. How do you do that? Where do you start?
Well, I tell people there's two ways. There's two ways that you can increase increase an emergency savings. Two ways. You either increase your income or decrease your debt. I say do both. So a lot of people, you have one job that you go to every day, but there are other ways to make income. One of the books that I write that's being published at the end of this year is How Many Eggs Are in Your Basket? So in that book, it talks about diversifying your income. You get a hustle on the side, you get something else that brings in income. When things were tight for us, when the mortgage business went, my husband and I started doing garage sales. We started looking around and saying, we got to get rid of this stuff. We needed to downsize anyway. Garage sales, we were making $400 a week. And I said, oh my gosh, it's like a second job. So you got to look at what you have. For me, I'll go to Ross and I'll find things that are on sale. I put them on eBay and sell them. Double for what I paid. So maybe I bought it for $10. I sell it on there for $25. Now I've made $15. If I do that 10 times a month, that's $150. So you've got to look for ways to increase your income, not necessarily by getting a whole, a second job, third job, because people have families. I'm not encouraging you to take time away from your family. I'm just encouraging you to look at how you can diversify your income or increase your income in different ways. The other thing is to decrease your debt and your spending. So you're living paycheck to paycheck, but where can you cut the costs? Where can you possibly buy lunch or maybe take your lunch? For me, I remember when I had a true heart-to-heart with Michelle, where's my money going? And if you take a look at your bank statement with a highlighter or a couple different color pens, you'll see where your money is going. I have clients tell me, I probably spent about $50 eating out. Okay, let's go through. And then you start to add it up, $250 eating out. So there's ways that we can, cut our spending. I'm not saying eliminate it. Maybe for me, I might only go do my hair once a month instead of, 2 or 3 times a month. Because that's a little bit, I'm not saying completely eliminate, but you do have to try to figure out where you can curb your spending. And then in that, you look at how much you have left, because a true budget includes everything. I'm talking about your dry cleaning, every single thing that you spend money on, you have to put on paper. Not a list of bills, but every single thing you spend money on. And how much do you have left over? And that's what you need to make sure. I tell everybody, you got to pay yourself first. Well, right after God, you tithe, and that's just me. Okay. You tithe and then you pay yourself. So I have a certain amount from my paycheck going into a savings account so that I can save. And I don't touch it. I have it go into an account that I don't have access. I don't have an ATM card for it. I have to physically go to that bank and take the money out. So I'm going to second guess whether I really need it. So if it's to go buy a dress at the mall, I'm not going to go to my savings account to get that. That means I don't need to purchase it. And I'm not going to use my credit card. So the other thing to eliminating the debt too is to stop using the cards. Very important. And then you can work on what's called a snowball effect. You can list your lowest, the smallest balance and how much you can. Okay, so my smallest card might be $300 and my largest card might be $2,500. And in between, I've got a $700, a $800. You send as much as you can, all the extra to the smallest card. And then you keep sending, when that card's paid off, now you had an extra left over from that, you keep sending that to the second highest card. And you keep going until you get to a point where, oh my gosh, in 2 years, all my bills are paid off. Or in 6 months, you figure out how long it's going to take you. But the key is increasing the spending and lowering your debts. And it's the key. I know you were just about to say something.
No,
I was going to say that if we don't acknowledge what the debts are and write them down and look at it on paper, sometimes that's a wake-up call. That is a wake-up call that we need to see exactly how much we owe. Because in your mind, you think, oh, I owe $1,500 or I owe $4,000. But when you actually write it down, oh my gosh, I owe $11,000. I didn't realize it was that much. That's a big difference.
Huge difference.
Yes.
Wow. You said a mouthful there, and you said a word that, and a good word at that. So let's go back to the room on Facebook Live. Teresa Sands, and this is one of our talking points, which is why I wanted to wait till this point. She asks, what is a good credit to debt ratio? And does it vary amongst the credit reporting agencies?
That's an excellent question, Teresa. So if your limit on your card is $1,000, you should have no more of a balance of 30%. 30% of the limit. So everybody who has their cards up to the limit, and then you make a payment of $100, and then you go ahead and before the payments due again, you're using up that same $100, you're making your credit score decrease by doing that. So the best way is to keep your balance to your limit at 30%. Now, of your debts, you should not be using more than 60% of your debts towards all of your expenses. Your car payment, mortgage, everything should come to no more than that. So when you look at your percentage of your income, that's two different questions I'm answering, Teresa, just to make sure I'm covering it. So the limit to your credit report, if you have an account with $1,000, you should owe no more than $300, 30%. But as far as your debt to income doesn't actually show up on your credit report because the creditors have no way knowing what your income is. But that's a way for you to look at your budget and make sure, where am I staying within my budget? I don't want to use more than a certain percentage of my income towards my debts.
Excellent question, Teresa. Thank you so much. So let's go back to the room and let's see. Erica Collins, welcome. She asks, do you suggest closing the credit card once you've paid it off?
Oh, that's a great question. No. Do not close the credit card. So closing a credit card after you've paid it off actually will cause your score to drop. It could drop as much as 50, 60 points just by closing that account.
Really?
So, yes. So that's what happens is that people will say, oh, I don't use the card anymore, I'm just going to close it. So I'm so glad you asked that question, Erica, because no, the answer is do not close the card. You can keep it open. Now, if it's a card that has an annual fee, I would suggest that you call that company every year and negotiate that fee. But do not close the card because there are different factors when you're looking at your credit report. It's how you're paying your loans on time, how you're paying your debts on time. It's the percentage of the balance to the limit. And then there's also how long your accounts have been open. So the newer an account it will affect your credit score more. So the longer an account is the better it is for you. So for example, if I have a credit card, I've been out of college for 20 years now. If I have a card still on my credit that I've had since I was in college, then that means that my credit report shows that card for 20 years. If over that 20-year period, I've never been late, my score is going to be much higher than a brand new card that I just got in the last 6 months. So you don't want to close because that card that you're closing could be your longest account and you could see your score drop a lot by closing it. I've had people that tell me, oh, but they told me to close it, and I'm not using it. So I just figured that was the best thing that you do not close it, even if you're the one recommending it. And it does say on there whether it was closed by a creditor or whether it was closed by the consumer, but it still would drop your credit score. So do not close the account. That's an excellent question. I hope I made myself clear. Do not close the account.
Painfully clear. Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Everybody's sitting there going, oh my gosh, I just closed that account. I'm so sorry.
Well, I think, sometimes the thing is you think that, I just paid off that $11,000. I am never getting into debt again. I shall cut this card and throw it into the Caspian Sea. And you're saying, don't do that.
Not right now, especially if you're in the process of purchasing a home or making a large purchase. It will drop your credit score over time. When that card is closed for a while, no, it won't. Your score will steadily start coming back up because you'll have something on your credit that's for a long time. And I mean, I have clients that have no credit score, and I'll tell you, if you have no credit, don't get any. Just you don't need it. People think they need it, but you don't need it.
Oh, okay. Okay, so this is key.
Yes.
This is the same swan song that we hear all the time, that, oh, well, it's good to have one because you need credit. And if you have nothing, you have no credit. So are you saying it's okay not to have credit cards or not to have credit?
For that millennial out there, or like my daughter's in college, who I'm telling over and over, you do not need a credit card. You can purchase a home with alternative credit, which means that how are you paying your rent, how are you paying your FPL, are you paying your car insurance, call a credit reference letter. It is actually, to have no credit, you can still get loans. It may not be the lowest interest rate, but you can get loans. And if you get yourself in a point where you have so much saved that you don't even necessarily require, because remember, now that's another down payment. So if I'm putting down, let's say 30% on my new car that I'm purchasing, I'm going to get a loan even if I have no credit, because I'm putting that much down. If I don't have any credit, that means I'm not spending my money monthly on debts. I have more for saving, and money talks. It always talks. So no, you don't need credit, but that is what people say. Let me help you get your credit started. You don't. So for those that are out there that have no credit score, keep it that way. For those of you that want to rebuild, and I know we're going to touch on that, right? I'm sorry, I'm going.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. And a testament to that, my mother has never, ever had credit cards in her life.
Wow.
And she was able to buy her office building and our house with no credit. She's never had a credit card. So
yes.
Old school African.
Yes.
So,
amen.
So we'll go back to this, and I want to take one other question from the audience. Quenisha Wiggins asks, how do you build your credit score back up after debts have either been paid or dropped off of your credit score?
And that's a perfect segue to what I was thinking. So she's reading my mind. Quenisha, you're reading my mind. So there's different ways to rebuild your credit. Push CPR. You got to breathe and push at the same time. Okay. So one of the things that you have to do is look at how much debt you have, and what debt you have that there are still open accounts. I'm not talking about the collections right now. I'm talking about accounts that are still open that you can start to make payments on, because again, making on-time payments has the highest effect on your credit report. So let's say you have no debts that are open. Everything's been closed. Everything's charged off. That's still okay. What you can do is get yourself a secured card, or if you're married and your husband or a spouse has a card, you can get added as a authorized user, and that credit, the good credit from that other card, will start to reflect on your credit, and it'll start to increase your scores. So you can get a secured card, and there are many companies that offer secured cards. That's where you put $300 and they give you a $300 limit. So you have $300 in a savings, and they give you a credit card that matches that savings. They might have fees, but you need to keep it under control. So I would say you use it once a month for gas, pay it off, don't carry a balance, and make sure you're paying it on time. Do not get in over your head on that new debt. The other thing that you're going to do is you can look at companies like Self-Lender. So what Self-Lender does is they actually lend you your own money. So you're going to be paying back. Just look it up. Just Google Self-Lender, and they report to all three bureaus. So you, at the end of, let's say you decide on 12 months, $1,500, they divide out that $1,500 by 12, and you make a payment every month deducted directly from your account. It reports on your credit report on all three bureaus. And at the end of the 12 months, you have the same amount that you put in, the $1,500. So Google Self-Lender, and that's another way that you're basically lending yourself the money, making a payment that's now reporting to your credit bureau. So those are the ways. It's key that you're paying the bills on time, looking at what the balance to your limit is. If you have a lump sum I tell people all the time, use your tax refund wisely. We're about to come into tax season. when you get your tax refund, start to look at what can I pay down. The key to rebuilding your credit is simple. Look at how you're paying all your bills on time. Look at what the balances are, and maybe get a couple of cards that you can afford and pay them on time to rebuild your credit. I hope that helps.
Yeah, fantastic. Great advice. So let's go back to some of our talking points as we start to wrap up our conversation. So let's move toward, time has flown, and you all have done great in terms of that. Let me just quickly introduce us again. For those of you who may be joining late, my name is Dr. Chitachi Egbu. I am a member of the South Broward Alumnae chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. I am also the host of this evening's conversation with the wonderful Michelle Edwards-Colley, who is a member of South Broward Alumnae chapter as well. And I forgot to mention that you are the co-chair of economic development, correct?
Yes, I am.
I
am the co-chair.
Yes, she's the co-chair, but tonight she is putting on her hat as a financial coach and an author and all these other wonderful things that I hope to be when I grow up. So let's get back to our talking points. If you have identity theft is a big thing these days.
Huge.
If you've been a victim of identity theft, what steps do you need to take?
That is very important. And that's an excellent question. What steps to take if you've been a victim of identity theft? So what happens, and I know you see the commercials where the guy's sitting in the rocking chair, but it's a lady's voice, and the identity theft has happened because somebody used your card. I've had it happen to me. I had somebody open an account and purchased a car in my name because my information was, I know. So I pulled my credit and I said, what is this? And it was with Navy Federal Credit Union up in Jacksonville. And the person was making the payments on time, but I didn't have a car loan. Yes, I didn't have a car loan with Navy Federal Credit Union.
That is some real live nerve. Wow.
Yes. So what you have to do, depending on where the debt or where the company is filing. So in my case, it was in Jacksonville where the account was opened, but I was living in Davie at the time. So I went to Davie Police Department and I filed a police report. That was the first step. Then I sent that police report along with a letter to Navy Federal Credit Union, advising them that that account was a fraudulently opened account. In my case, it was good because they were paying on time, but it was not my debt. In your case, it may be that they're not paying on time because that's typical. They don't pay on time. They get the debt, they use up the credit card, and then they don't pay because they know it's showing on your credit, not on their own. So I reported it to Navy Federal Credit Union. And then the last thing that I did is that I actually put a alert on each of my credit bureaus. So remember when I said when you go under annualcreditreport.com, you have access to the 3 different bureaus, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. Under those 3 bureaus, you can put an alert and you can actually put your phone number that they now have to call you every time you're going to get debt. Every time somebody's going to advance you debt, they have to make sure that it's really Michelle Edwards-Colley with such and such social security number and date of birth. That's actually because they have all your information. The lady that did the loan at Navy Federal Credit Union had a license with all my information and her picture. So this is what they do. And if they spend as much time, doing better, but you do have to report it to the police report. I suggest that you keep it at all times with you, because when you go to get a loan, remember now you could have excellent credit and this identity theft, 2-3 accounts that they've opened, you now need to go through the dispute process. But until then, keep your police report with you so you can show that to a lender and say, those are not my cards. Those were cards. I had identity theft. Here's all the proof. Here's what I've done. Keep all your documentation. I suggest you keep it paper-wise as well as electronically. I have had clients that have lost their documents following a couple of hurricanes we had here. So I would suggest that you keep it electronically and keep your document like that, so that you always have access to that document.
If only people could use their power for good. That just really floors me. I know identity theft happens. We're all aware of that. But when it hits so close to home, you're like, really? That takes a lot of energy to go and look up information and actually get an ID with you. You could have gotten a degree the whole time. It floors me, but that's a testament to be careful, to be very, very careful.
Well,
I
and with all the
Go ahead.
breaches, there's so many breaches of information between,
Yes.
everything's hacked nowadays. It's important. And that's why, again, I can't express enough. Make sure that you want at least once a year and get some monitor. I know that Capital One, they have, credit cards, so you can see an alert if something shows up on your credit that you don't notice that you do. You say, as well as Credit Karma. Now, I'm saying Credit Karma's credit score, but I do think that you can use Credit Karma as a way to notify you if something correct.
So Michelle, I know
So just a credit.
Michelle, I'm sorry, you were breaking up. So the basic thing is that make sure you check your credit once a year. And then you talked about Credit Karma. Say that again, please.
Yes, Credit Karma, which there are various credit monitoring services. So sometimes you can have one, like American letter credit companies offer credit monitoring. If they do it for free, I suggest that you get the credit monitoring company, and you can set it up where they can email you. So if something's wrong negatively in your credit, you're going to get an email right away. So you're not waiting. Let's say I just pulled my credit. My birthday was in September, and I pulled my credit once a year around my birthday. So I'm not going to check my credit again with annualcreditreport.com until next year, September. But in the meantime, if something should show up on there, such as identity theft, I'm going to find out when they say, did you open a new account with, I don't know, I can't even think of the name of a company now. Did you open a new account with
Rooms to Go?
With Rooms to Go? And I'm going to say, no, I pay for my furniture in cash, right? So I mean, for those of you who weren't on the beginning, I use Rooms to Go as an example. So, so Rooms to Go. And I said, wait a minute, I didn't get a Rooms to Go furniture package, So then now I can go ahead and immediately dispute it instead of waiting several months and that hurting my credit, especially if it was identity theft.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Wow. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have really covered the gamut, and we haven't even touched the surface of something. So this is what I want to encourage. Let's keep this conversation going. Michelle is going to be able to see these questions on YouTube and here on our Facebook page. And Michelle, if you wouldn't mind, there were some questions there that we didn't get to answer. Would you mind
I will,
going back and answering them so we can keep the conversation going? And if you
will
chance to ask any questions, please go ahead and put them in the chat of this Facebook Live, or on YouTube. And Michelle will look at both of them, and she'll be happy to answer any questions. But this is Michelle. Thank you so very much for
it was my pleasure.
This has been an excellent and awesome and much needed conversation. We don't have enough of these conversations as far as I'm concerned in society and in our community. So thank you so much for that. So ladies and gentlemen, before we go, I'm going to say once again, the passcode, or the buzzword, whatever you want to call it, for tonight to show that you were here and that you enjoyed it, hopefully, is FICO, FICO, like your FICO score. That is for the members of the South Broward Alumni chapter of Delta Sigma Theta to let us know that you were in attendance tonight. Though we can see for most of you, if you're on YouTube, it may be difficult to see unless you left a comment. So in that case, make sure you email that to Economic Development. I'm going to ask that the correspondence, if we can send out the email, because for some reason I cannot find the email. So if we can send out the email, just the email to in correspondence, so people can respond. And also for those of you watching the replay, thank you for watching the replay as well. So if maybe you didn't get a chance to see everything, or you joined late, or you didn't get to watch it at all, go ahead and watch the replay. We would really, really enjoy that. And I believe for sorors, you may watch the replay as well. Let me do this. My good producer, Curtis, is going to put up some slides. Let me go, because we have some events. If you enjoyed this tonight, certainly tell other people, but we do other things. In fact, we have another Facebook Live that will be coming up shortly in November 29th, for World AIDS Day. So Curtis, could we have the World AIDS Day, which I believe is the number 8, the last one I gave you, the World AIDS Day flyer? There we go. So you can see all the information for World AIDS Day there. It's a panel discussion about with the HIV prevention team from the Department of Health in Broward County. They're absolutely amazing. We did it with them last year, and we're teaming up again with them. And of course, international awareness and involvement as the lead committee in this case. And I will be your host for that conversation as well. And then if we could have let's see, could I have the extra years of zest flyer, please? So we have the extra years of zest, which is every fourth Monday. And these are in person. Well, the first one's a Facebook Live. This is if you happen to live in the South Florida area or you happen to be visiting, we'd love to see you. This is open to the public. This is where we do various activities with our older citizens. So extra years of zest is something that happens and what is that? McTire? I don't know how to say that, but it's McTire Park, I believe, in West Park, Florida, 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. every fourth Monday. We'd love to see you there. And if I could then have sorry, it's not in order for me. So could I have the flyer, the domestic violence flyer, please? So we also have a domestic violence workshop coming up, the Voices of Violence at Koinonia Worship Center in Hallandale Beach. If you can join us, that is Tuesday, October 30th from 6:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. in honor. This is also Domestic Violence Month in addition to being Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So this is happening at the end of the month. So we would love, love, love to see you there. Also, could I please have the step show flyer, please? And these are in no particular order. So it's Stepping for a Purpose. And Stepping for a Purpose, where you're going to see the talents of many area step teams, but especially those of the South Broward Alumni chapter, is happening Friday, October 26th at the Miramar Cultural Center in Miramar, Florida. The doors open at 6 p.m. Showtime is at 7:30 p.m. Again, we hope to see you at that. That should be a lot of fun. And it's fun to root for your favorite team, South Broward Alumni chapter. Anyway, so no, we're not trying to influence you in any way. Just a few more things before we go. Could I please have the voter education flyer, please? So if you are around the day before that on October 25th at Dania Church of God, Calvary Restoration Ministries, you can join us for a voter education and candidate forum. Once again, the Dania Church of God, Calvary Restoration Ministries, which is in Dania Beach, Florida, on 1715 Southwest 7th Terrace. And it's basically voter education. People, please, please, please get educated, and vote, vote, vote. We can help you in terms of that education. Please come out. That's at 6:30 p.m. on the 25th. Just a couple of more. Could I please have the flyer Minds Over Matter, please? So, Minds Over Matter for Life. It's a presentation about the dangers and consequences associated with bullying/hazing. That happens Thursday, November 15th. So this is next month, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. at Hallandale High School in Hallandale, Florida. The featured speaker is Ben McNamee. I hope you're saying your name properly. And I'm going to give you, of course, at the end, all the information of where you can find that. 2 more flyers, people, and then I am going to let you go. Could I please have the woman with the candy stripes on, please? The SBAC Christmas party. So this is the SBAC Christmas party. This is not an actual flyer, but this is the information, and I'll give you information. So if you're going to be naughty or nice, don't think twice. You've got to get to this party. This is our annual end of the year party, and we want to send 2018 off with a bang. So this is a joint effort of the South Broward Alumnae chapter of Delta Sigma Theta, and the Eta Nu chapter of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. This is our annual Christmas party at the festive and newly redone Bahia Mar Hotel. And then finally, could I have the boat, please? The yacht, excuse me. This is not a boat. This is a yacht, and it is the livest yacht party of the year, people. You have got to join us on, oh gosh, I forgot to say the date. So I'm going to direct you to our Facebook page for the dates, because the dates are all there. But the Winterfest Boat Parade is going to be aboard the Biscayne Lady Ultra Yacht. During the Seminole Hard Rock Winterfest Boat Parade, we were the first Black nonprofit organization to be in the Winterfest Boat Parade, and we've done it every year since 2013. We would love for you to join us. The boarding starts at 5 p.m. and we will leave you. So yes, we will. This is not a joke. It's not a game, people. So you could take those down, Curtis, and put us back up. So if you are interested in any of these events or all of these events, we urge you to go to our website, which is dstsouthbroward.org, and you can see all of these events and more information on our website. Also, follow us on social media. Why are you not already? Make sure you're following us on Facebook right here where you're watching, on Instagram, and our Instagram is live. Make sure you're following us on Twitter, and we've got a YouTube page. You can subscribe and like and share from all of those, and we would love to add you to the SBAC family in terms of our social media following. So please, once again, I need to thank Michelle Edwards-Colley for the knowledge bombs that she dropped all night. And if you did not get your question, please make sure you put them in the chat, and Michelle will get to them. Let's keep the conversation.
I will.
And then I'd also like to say thank you to Curtis Brooks of Curtis Brooks Media Productions. He was awesome. Curtis, did you make something to put on the screen with your stuff?
I did. It's on the last slide, the outro.
Okay, so it's as we go out?
Correct.
Okay, well, it's correct. So we're going to go out. So once again, I'm going to say thank you, keep the faith, and we hope our next...